My friends, I'm going to run you through the amazing features of Spicerack, our new baby at Process.audio. What's Spicerack? It is creative distortion. When you think distortion, you think like real mess, but it also can be pretty subtle. And there's a lot of distortion plugins out there, and I use a bunch of them, but now I use Spicerack because we put in all the fixtures that I was missing in the other plugins. Check this out. So in essence, Spicerack, one box, 5 colors, drive, tube, amp, lo-fi, fuzz. You have an amount of drive here. This is transparent. Yeah, add some distortion. Let's listen to the 5 colors. For example, for drums, I'm a big fan of lo-fi. If we listen to it like this, you may find this a bit much. I like it. But if you find it a bit much, you have 2 options. You can change the wet-dry ratio. Before, after. Gives a little bit of an edge. Or you could decide that you are going to only distort the hits, the big hits. Check it out. You could use the gate to do this. And then back it up. And if you find that maybe the bass drum is a little too thick in the bottom and maybe the cymbal is getting hit too hard, you could say, oh, I'm going to put the EQ before the lo-fi. I'm going to EQ the hell out of it by high passing and low passing. It sounds like this. And then you can change your wet drive ratio. Really fast, really efficient way to give character to your drums, to bass, to anything you want. I'm going to go back to my drums to talk about the EQ for a second because it's unusual, but I think it's awesome. So the EQ has a high pass, a low pass, and a cut or boost single band here. So say if I am in my default mode and I want to just make a smaller drum set, I just... Very easy, or cut. Super easy to use, super fast. The other thing it has, which I absolutely love, is a tilt. Check it out. So if I get here and I'm kind of happy with this, tilting up and it's really, really an awesome EQ. I love it so much that I hope we have time to make a standalone plugin for it because it's really fierce. Of course, you can change the slopes on the high pass and the low pass right here, like this, and you can turn them off or on. You know, all the trimmings that you're accustomed to, you can do anything you want. But really, it's designed to be a 3-click EQ, so you can really shape the sound the way you want. And it sounds bananas. And when you have this button on, it's linear phase, so your signal is absolutely secure and untouched with. Let me show you another way to use it. This is the raw bass. For bass, I love drive and I love tube. Drive is a much expanded version of the drive from Sugar that everybody loves. This is great. Let's make a full-fledged version of it so that you could use it with more range. Check it out. Back it up. It's really subtle, it's really beautiful. A very important point. For most saturation plugins, as you raise the drive, you raise the gain. So you compare off to on, you get blown out of the water. You don't really know what you're hearing because there's so much gain. So that's why we created this calibrate function. Right now, by default, the plugin is calibrated in a sweet spot that works best for most purposes, but it's not as precise as possible. We can't guess what level you're going to work out, especially these days where everything is so loud. What you could do is you could play your raw track and hit calibrate. It listens. And then it says, oh, this track hovers around -21. And what you can do now is from 0 all the way to the top, you'll see that there's no gain change. So you can really hear what the distortion is doing. Check it out. So you can really, really hear what the plugin is doing without being fooled by level, which is pretty awesome. So between the 5 colors, the gate, the mix dry knob, the calibrate, and the equalizer, which you can put before or after the system, you can really get pretty much any sound you want. Not just for like crazy distortion, but you can like saturate transients, just transients on drums like I tried to do, or you can just saturate the high pass, the high end of a bass. I just flip this. I'm in linear phase mode here so that it doesn't ruin the bass. I like the oversampling sound. Obviously, you can work in linear phase and oversampling in mix mode because you won't up the latency. You can't track with the linear phase plugin on. So if you want real-time low latency, you just remove these two things and then you're down to 0. If you turn linear phase on, you lose 4,000 samples, and then the oversampling, you go up to another few thousand samples, which doesn't matter if you're mixing, only matters if you're tracking. Now, I'm in linear phase mode, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna saturate just the high end of the bass. Cool. And then I'm gonna back up that and put some dry signal back in. It's got that shine, and if I do that with the tube, it's awesome. This is just awesome. Like now you get a real analog feeling, saturated bass, but you don't lose the precision at the bottom because it's untouched and everything is linear. So the bottom stays as is, but you get the finger saturated. You can really get that bass to cut through the mix without having to fight so hard. That's pretty awesome. My personal feel is for low-end instruments, I tend to use drive and tube a lot. For drums, I'm on lo-fi right away. For vocals, like special effect vocals, when you want to do like that, you know, super effective vocal, amp works great, tube works great. Tube sounds more vintage, amp sounds more modern in your face. Lo-fi is also a great way to make really, I'm going to use a technical term, fucked up sounding vocals in a great way. And then fuzz is an all-around, it's a really awesome sounding fuzz. So if you like the sound of fuzz, this is it, but with all the other trimmings. One more really great feature of Spicerack is this. It's called console remote. Every instance of Spicerack in your mix, in your session, no matter what you DAW, knows what other Spicerack instances you have in your mix. So imagine you have 8 Spiceracks on a multi-track. If you want to adjust the saturation for that, for example, the drive is awesome. So say if you want to adjust drive on every single one of those 8 tracks, you're going to have to open every plugin and adjust it a little bit. But with console remote, you don't have to do that. With console remote, since Spicerack knows its little buddies, friends, brothers in your session, if you are, right now I'm on the bass, a fret bass, and I can see my settings here, and I can also see the settings of mono drums, which are over here. This is the other plugin, right? So if I want to change the settings here, all I have to do is in the one Spicerack that's up, I can change the drive and it changes it in all the other options. So imagine you're here and you have a full drum set. You can say, okay, this is my snare, I want more drive. This is my bass drum, I don't want as much drive. That is a crazy fast way to work when you do multi-track saturation and stuff like that. So when you do, for example, doubled guitars, you don't have to keep changing plugins. You can just open the console and do both left-right guitars with slightly different settings to get a little more stereo without changing plugins. Pretty awesome. Another feature that's pretty fierce is the +18. Let's go back to full mix so you can really hear what's going on. I'm going to remove the equalizer. By the way, clearly the equalizer can go before and after very easily. I use it before a lot in linear mode so that I can shape the shape of my distortion. In this case, I'm going to turn it off. Okay. If I hit plus 18, Spicerack is going to hit my drive algorithm 18 dBs louder into the distortion algorithm, so it's going to go crazy, but will compensate for the output level so that you don't get hit with so much level that you don't know if you like the sound or not. You're just getting hit with levels. Check it out. This is without. With. So it's like doing this on 1176, right? But it's all done automatically for you. So it's a cool way to work, especially if you switch distortions. That's kind of cool. And then the fuzz. Hey. So essentially, each of these 5 colors has 2 colors in it. It's got a more metrosexual color, and then it has a rock and roll color. So that gives you 10 colors you can work with, plus the dry wet, plus the gate, plus the EQ that can be pre or post, usually use linear phase. And the console remote if you have several instances in your session. Basically, you can get to any saturation or distortion sound you want with Spicerack in 3 clicks. It's pretty awesome. Thanks for watching.